So I want to read to you from Genesis 20. Our topic is purity of heart. And there are a couple of very interesting things in this chapter that you need to know about, but especially about the purity of heart here. And Abraham removed thence to the southern country and dwelt between Kadesh and Sur and sojourned in Gerar. And Abraham said concerning Sarah his wife, "She is my sister," for he feared to say, "She is my wife," lest at any time the men of the city should kill him for her sake. So Abimalech, king of Gerar, sent and took Sarah. And God came to Abimelech by night in sleep and said, now notice Abimelech is not a Jew. He's not related to Abraham. And God came to him at night in sleep and said, behold, thou diest for the woman. You will die for this woman whom thou hast taken, whereas she has lived with a husband. You are going to die because she's married. But Abimelech had not touched her, and he said, Lord, wilt thou destroy an ignorant and just nation? Said he not to me, she is my sister? And said she not to me, he is my brother? With a pure heart and in righteousness of my hands have I done this. And God said to him in sleep, yea, I knew that thou didst this with a pure heart, and I spared you so that you should not sin against me. Therefore I suffered thee not to touch her. That word actually is not to be latched to her, which is indicating sexual intercourse. But now return the man his wife, for he is a prophet, and shall pray for thee, and thou shalt live. But if thou restore her not, know that thou shalt die, and all of yours. All right. Now, we're not going to go on right now, but let's go and have a closer look at this. Abimelech, who was not a Jew and not related to Abraham, had a pure heart. This is long before Christ came. And God said, look at what God said. And God said to him in sleep, yea, I knew that thou didst this with a pure heart. God is testifying that Abimelech had a pure heart in this situation. That's pretty good. That means Abimelech absolutely did have a pure heart in this situation. Notice also that God calls Abraham a prophet. When was the last time you saw Abraham listed among the prophets? Says right here, he's a prophet. If you read the New King James Version, it says he's a prophet also. But this is the more important one, the Septuagint. But it says he's a prophet. Abraham was a prophet. And he shall pray for you, and you shall live. It gets better than that. Let's read on. Verse 8. And Abimelech rose early in the morning and called all his servants, and he spoke all these words in their ears, and all the men feared exceedingly. The fear of God came upon all of his men because of what they heard. When they heard the words of God to Abimelech in his sleep, and that God had revealed to Abimelech what was happening, what was really happening. And Abimelech called Abraham and said to him, what is this that you have done to us? Have we sinned against you, that thou hast brought upon me and upon my kingdom a great sin? You've done to me a deed which no one ought to do. He's chastising Abraham, though he's a prophet. He says, you've done a deed, an action that no one ought to do. And Abimelech said to Abraham, what what hast thou seen in me that thou hast done this? What have you seen in me that has caused you to do this to me? So he's looking at himself. He's introspective. He's asking for some reflection. And Abraham said, why I said, surely there is not the worship of God in this place, and they will slay me because of my wife. For truly she is my sister by my father, but not by my mother, and she became my wife. Now, you may not have known that. Sarah is actually Abraham's half-sister. So they weren't lying. This is my sister, this is my brother. They were indeed brother and sister. Now, it might mean literally brother and sister, like the daughter of his father and not of his mother, or it could be a cousin. Because just like many languages in Europe also, they use the word brother or sister to refer to a woman or man, respectively, of equal or lower generation from them. So it could be cousins. I came over to Poland first time. Some gal, she introduced me to her brother. I said, I didn't know you had a brother. She says, oh, brother. No, there's another word for it in English. And we translated it and it was cousin. They have many words for cousins based on how they're related. And that's the same here. All right, so for truly she is my sister by my father, but not by my mother, and she became my wife. And it came to pass when God brought me forth out of the house of my father, that I said to her, this righteousness thou shalt perform to me. In every place into which we may enter, say of me, he is my brother. It's the truth. And Abimelech took 1,000 pieces of silver and sheep and calves and servants and maidservants and gave them to Abraham, and he returned him Sarah his wife. And Abimelech said to Abraham, behold, my land is before thee, dwell wheresoever it may please you. And to Sarah he said, behold, I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. Those shall be to you for the price of your countenance, and to all the women with thee, and speak the truth in all things. So he's chastising her also. Speak the truth in all things. Don't deceive, no decoys. Right? Although they did say what was true, they had set up a decoy to make them think that they weren't married. 17, and Abraham prayed to God, listen closely, and God healed Abimelech and his wife. And you say, how did they get sick? Well, just listen. And his women servants, and they bore children, because the Lord had fast closed from without every womb in the house of Abimelech, because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. So this must have been going on for some time in order for them to realize the wombs were closed from the outside. Think about it a minute. If they were closed from the outside, that meant that the men could not enter the woman. That's right, for sexual intercourse. So it's pretty easy to see that God had closed the womb from the outside. So they couldn't even have sexual intercourse. And God said that Abraham was a prophet. And Abraham prayed, and God healed them of being closed up in the womb from the outside so that they could bear children again. It's an amazing story. Abimelech, although he was pure in heart and God knew that, he still did this to Abimelech's women. So that what was right would be done of restoring Sarah back to Abraham, and knowing that God is a just God, and that even though you're purged in your heart, and even though you're clean in your hands and your action, if the action is unjust, there will be a punishment. In this case, the punishment could be reversed because Abimelech was pure in heart and clean in his hands regarding this action because he did not know. He had a decoy set in front of him by someone else. It wasn't his own temptation. So now when we look at this, what can we take from this for our own lives? Well, first off, you got to make sure that you are purged in your heart, and you stay purged in your heart of evil and anything even remotely related to it. Stay as far away as you can. Job 28:28. So you need to stay as far away from sin. Keep it out of your heart. Even the resemblance of sin, keep it out of your heart. That filth, keep it away. Keep your hands cleansed. Do what is right, and do not do evil, which offends God, breaking his laws. Do not do that. You know that. Listen to God. And if you have done something inadvertently that you weren't aware of, and now you're aware of, make it correct. Make it correct. And seek a prophet who will pray for you for your healing. Because I guarantee if you've done something like that inadvertently even, that God is punishing you some way. And you must seek a prophet of God and ask him, the man of God, who God listens to pray for you, for your healing. If you want to write me an email, write me. You'll always find my email in the About tab on the channel page of YouTube. You can also contact me through the website. And my email address is ron.craig@therootedword.com. RON.CRAIG at theRooted, ROOTED, word.com. No spaces in there. And just write me an email. And I want to hear, if you're talking about this topic, I want to hear, what is this sin that you need prayer for, and how have you made it right? May the Lord bless you as you seek him with all your heart.